The revolution is here. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, cannabis hemp. We discuss the truth. We're telling our children the truth about this wonderful plant that is our hope for fuel, for fiber, for food, for paper, and it's just great, and that's what we're talking about is hemp. In fact, I've got my friend Richard and my friend Saryn here with me tonight, and in Eugene this past weekend, the Million Marijuana March went on, and I heard there were 700 people there, 700 people. It was an awesome party, and one of the leaders of the Marijuana March, the organizers, Dan Ernst, who was my co-host on Cannabis TV, was arrested. Saryn, what do you know about it?
Well, basically, we were setting up for the parade, and Dan was working on setting the stage up over in the Free Speech Plaza, and it was before the parade started, and suddenly there was a swarm of SWAT team police that virtually surrounded him and threw him to the ground and proceeded to yell they had a warrant and they were going to arrest him. At that moment, somebody ran over and got me, and so personally I got to view the rest of what happened, which is when I ran over there, they had him somewhat wrestled down to the ground, and there was a lot of yelling and confusion, and I was yelling, I think his leg's out, what are you doing, why are you injuring him? And you can briefly hear in the clips that we're going to show at the end of the show tonight in the struggle, I think my leg's out, honey, and he's trying to stand, and they're virtually just dragging him and pulling him along. It's kind of brutal looking, and then at one point the clips clip off, and all I can tell you that happened at that point was the confrontation between myself and the SWAT police was, what are you doing? Why are you injuring him? He hasn't hurt anyone. And they turned to me and they said, well, we have a warrant. And I said, a warrant for cannabis. He hasn't hurt a flea, hasn't touched anybody, and you have no right to hurt somebody, whether you have a warrant or not. And at that point, they all just turned and stared at me. They had no response, and I think that they felt as stupid as they looked in the public eye at that point for virtually throwing a citizen to the ground and dragging him off in public for nothing more than a cannabis warrant. The warrant also was what we call here in Lane County a secret indictment. And Lane County is the only county in Oregon that uses secret indictments. And that's basically where they can indict you on a crime. And instead of sending you a letter, coming to your house and knocking on your door, telling you to appear for an arraignment on this crime, they basically just hunt you down, mow you over, and haul you in.
Wow.
And the irony of it is that they got to let you go after they process you. You know, they make it look like they're going to rip you off the street and you're never going to see anybody again. But the irony of it is they can't hold you. It's too crowded. The crimes don't warrant that kind of a hold. Basically what it boils down to is there's a custody referee officer once you get into the jail, and it's up to her who goes first and what happens. And most of those people are willing to look at the situation because they are virtually the ones that might put the murderer back out on the street.
Right.
The bail was originally set at $565,000, which is an outrageous amount of money here in Eugene for any crime, let alone cannabis crimes. And it was reduced, and Dan was released this morning with the help of some close friends. There are apparently some indictments against me at this time, and I'm probably just going to go ahead and make a voluntary appearance tomorrow because I really don't prefer to be hunted down by a SWAT team. I'm more than willing to confront them. I haven't done anything wrong, and I stand strong behind my morals that I saved my son's life with cannabis, and I've saved many a patient's life with cannabis, and I consider that an honor and not a crime.
Right.
Hear, hear.
So once again, we've got our co-host here on Cannabis TV, Dan Ernst, violently pushed down, shoved down by 6 officers right before our march happened on Saturday. Just shows me just how threatened they really are of cannabis supporters and of someone like Dan who's preaching peace. He's preaching tolerance. He's preaching save the trees. How do you feel about that, Richard?
Well, I think those are the very kinds of tactics we can expect out of the Eugene police, and they're not too unsimilar from tactics that the Gestapo used in Nazi Germany. And this is a serious matter because with the erosion of states' rights, we're going to see a federal presence like we did the other day when we were rallying downtown. I don't know if you remember, a car drove by us, a police car, but it was a different police car. It was a special one that said the Federal Protective Services. And I believe that's a police car, the Federal Protective Services, that's part of the new Homeland Security Act. And we have to go down to City Hall on Monday and tell the City Council that we don't want this kind of attitude or action from the police. This is reprehensible. And we have to work towards telling the police what we want. And if we can't do that as citizens, and we don't have elected officials who are doing that for us as our elected representatives, then we have to start thinking about what we really have to do, which is we have to elect the people who are going to listen to us, somebody like me for governor, so that when these kinds of crimes happen, and I notice it, that something happened and the system went wrong, I can just either exonerate that person, or once I'm governor, we'll take care of the hemp and the marijuana situation so that people aren't going to jail like this for marijuana. It's absolutely absurd and ridiculous. And I think the time has come. All these things play into, you know, we want to have harm reduction on society. By legalizing, we have harm reduction on people's lives. Why should people's lives be invalidated? Why should Saryn have to pay $5,000 bail to get Danbo out? Now that money belongs to the system and is going to get used for some other purpose that is not going to further or benefit the goals and values of society.
Yeah, well, that is a great way to get things done, is to elect people who are pro-hemp, like Richard. So let's all vote for Richard for governor. We're also going to be taking this in front of the City Council this coming Monday evening to talk to them about what happened to Dan and to talk to them.
We're not going to put up with the Nazi type technique where, you know, SWAT teams can just swoop in on the street and basically bowl you over and haul you off yelling warrant in your face. First off, they're supposed to have the warrant. You're supposed to be able to view it. And Dan was in jail for over 24 hours before he was even shown any paperwork or any warrant at all as to what the charges even were. And of course, these are points that have been disputed for years. And of course, with the new Homeland Security Act, they'll even have more power to override what really are our rights. But you know, the fact that this is the only county where they do secret indictments, I think there needs to be something said about the fact that something really fishy is going on here in Lane County. It has to do with Douglas Helkel Road and a number of other individuals that really, their time has come and gone. They don't respect and they don't support the ideas of the people in the county that they live in and are elected in. Unfortunately, they have been elected because there's always been a problem with voter turnout. But honestly, we don't believe that really people want those type of people in there. It's just getting people motivated enough to come out and press that button so that somebody good can get in there.
That's right, and it's not just about voting. Voting's very important, but it goes beyond that. Definitely vote, but also make sure to be a citizen activist. When you see something happen and you see somebody's rights being disparaged or wronged, and they say, hey, you know, can you be a witness for me because I'm going to take the cops to court, be there for them. Or if it happens to you, like I have a friend who was wrongfully searched, and we're going to take the city of Eugene to court tomorrow. We're going to go file the paperwork tomorrow. And I'm going to help that individual take the city of Eugene to court and pay him a lot of money for having infringed on his rights. And he can do it all because he has a witness. And so we're going to, I urge you as an activist to do everything you can, whether it's that your rights were wronged and you take the city of Eugene to court and tie him up in court, or whether you want to help on hemp campaigns like my campaign or the OCI campaign.
Yeah, another thing everyone can do is to come down here to Sheldon at 7 o'clock every Tuesday night and take part in Cannabis TV.
And call the media and ask them, where are these people? Why aren't these issues in the newspaper? Why isn't this candidate for governor in the newspaper or on the radio? And hold them accountable. Call them 2-3 times a week in different television stations and be an activist.
Now, don't you have a website also where people can find out about your campaign for governor of Oregon?
Yeah, I do. It's richforgov.com. RICHFORGOV.com, and you can go there and find out about more issues. Hemp and marijuana are not the only issues I believe in, and so I urge you to go to that website, and I urge you to help out on my campaign. You can call me at 913-7228, and either help out, get signatures, help out fundraising. We're constantly in need of funds to help bail people out, to help people further their legal causes, and to help further the cause of marijuana
Great.
and hemp.
Yes. All right. So, what other active things have been happening in the community for cannabis lately? Or what's coming up?
Well, we do have the city council meeting coming up. There's also another meeting that's coming up. I'm not quite sure on the date. I think it's really close to the other meeting, but it's the one where the police are going to be able to decide, what and who are the media that are going to be allowed to proceed into places that are, cordoned off by them, or, So that's an interesting one, and it's also a very much, again, a liberty issue. If the people are restricted from reporting on things, and they can't even get in there and take pictures unless they've been hand-picked by the people that we're basically trying to report on, it's not going to be very fair. And of course, it's certainly an infringement on our ability to communicate with each other and get information out.
Yeah, so we'll keep you up to date on that meeting.
For sure, and you can also always get that information yourself from calling the city and asking them when that meeting is coming up, because it's coming up here in the next week also.
Now, didn't you also go to a big medical conference in Portland?
Right, there was a medical conference this last week in Portland that was for professionals, nurses, counselors, doctors, and some laymen. And it was the second annual therapeutic cannabis conference. It was very well attended and very well professionally attended. And it was quite enlightening to be up there and to see that mainstream America was starting to recognize cannabis as a medicine as well as a food, because there was a segment on how nutritious hemp was in comparison to flax oil, which has been recommended that women take for quite a few years. And in fact, they're finding that flax oil, like soy, has some hormonal problems for women, and that too much of it could certainly instigate those problems. And they did the same studies with hemp, and those hormones are not found in hemp.
Wow, that's
And so the
great.
hemp is actually turning out to be far superior to the flax at a deeper look at it through a microscope.
Great.
And there's been a lot of nutritional studies on hemp in the last 3 years, and there's some really good material out, and they had very good information up there. It was very informative, and it wasn't just a bunch of laymen. It was people that had really researched their subjects
Sure.
and knew what they were talking about and had, materials to back it up.
Exactly, yeah. Cannabis with therapeutic value, it's not just about smoking pot. It's about getting a good medicine to people who need it, people who are really in pain. And there are healthy ways of administering THC to people through eating it, through vaporization, that really work.
It really works, and there's several, just a whole slew of vaporizers on the market, and those were there for doctors and nurses to see and try. And it was a great event. Last year it was held in Iowa, so most of us didn't go. And this year it was in Portland, and like I said, it was very well attended, and it was it's always enlightening to be in a room of several hundred people that understand, or at least are willing to open their minds enough to try to understand the views of others.
Sure.
Especially when those views certainly could affect this planet in a global way.
That's right. Yeah, with all the things that are happening on the planet, it sure is time for a change. And we've talked so many times about how Oregon's economy is really ready for hemp. It makes so much sense. And that's one of the reasons why Rich is running for governor. And you were going to talk about some kind of a fundraiser you might be having soon.
Oh yeah, on May 19th, Sunday, we'll be having a fundraiser at the Eugene Yoga Center at 7 p.m. And so we urge that you come to that and support my campaign, and bring, whatever you can, $10, $15, $20 or more. And we'll have various different juices and a discussion about a more sustainable future on the planet. Because really, it's not just about hemp. It's about energy. It's about the way we go about leading our daily lives. If we don't do something now very quickly, in the next 20 years, the world's going to look like a very different place. There's animal populations that are below 50% of their population, and once they get below 50%, it's very hard for them to climb back over that 50% threshold and survive as a species. So we're talking about hemp as one of the crucial crops that can solve the budget crisis immediately. in many different ways. All these products there can be a small hemp tax,
All right.
and we can use that hemp tax to fund everything from healthcare to education. So really, please go to richforgov.com and check out my website and call me, 913-7228. Donate to my campaign. Give me some time, some of your time, and if I win, then Oregon will be the first state with a pro-hemp governor.
Yeah, that's right.
And bilingual governor, and we'll make history here because, see, Oregon is like no other state. We have a huge landmass, and we have tons of paper mills. And there's other states that have either landmass or paper mills or neither, and so really we're in a fortunate position. So.
Yeah, so vote for Richard for governor, that's for sure. And we want to talk now about some photos that we have to show you. There was an international event that happened all over the world, the Million Marijuana March. And here we've got some photos. So, Chris, can you maybe tell us some things about what happened? I heard something happened in New York, that there were actually some arrests made or something?
148 arrests.
148 arrests.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and we've also heard something about 700 people here in Eugene. It was really a good party.
Well, you know, we had at least over 300 people when we hit 19th Street. Really amazed the police because they'd come up and checked on the crowd about 15 minutes earlier. And in the last, 5-10 minutes, just people came from everywhere, every which direction. We had over 300 people when we hit 19th Street, and we picked up the police. And there was kids and little babies and strollers, and there was a float, and there was a giant joint, and it was real exciting and quite emotional. And
it was awesome.
There's Rich and Rich. One guy just does the Oregon Cannabis Initiative, and then Rich for Gov.
All right.
And that's a musician gentleman who comes. He was in last year's parade and this year's parade, and comes in costume. And it was a festive time. A good time was had by all.
The red, white, and blue hempster.
And there's the giant joint. And
That's
you know we.
How many people got to take a hit off of that?
I don't know. Cannabis TV, channel 22 there.
Nice.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Cannabis TV.
This was the largest march in Eugene, by the way, in a very long time. A friend of mine at Saturday Market told me that was the largest march he'd seen in years. Larger than a Democratic rally, a Republican rally, larger than a Green rally, larger than any of these other rallies about any of these other issues. Marijuana is the great unifier, and Republicans and Democrats alike can unify behind my campaign and know that the state's rights will be safe and that the economic prosperity of the state will be ensured by legalizing industrial hemp. And it's very important.
All right, we've now got some great videos to show you all about cannabis hemp, and let's watch 9 minutes of real good cannabis video.
I thought this was down there at the Danbo, getting arrested.
Are you going to come up?
Oh, okay. All right. This video we're going to see is about Danbo, our friend who was arrested right before the marijuana march.
Danbo has charges and all that type of stuff. It's that, they knew where he lived. And this was basically a power trip by the police, to show who's got power and who doesn't. This has nothing to do with the law. They knew where he lived. They didn't have to come, give him a bum's rush off a stage when he was setting up a stage for an event. They knew where he lived.
On Free Speech Plaza.
On Free Speech Plaza, with 6 cops, and then putting him in jail for $565,000, over $500,000 bail,
And this is all predicated on a letter they supposedly sent that he didn't get without any signature. That's what I don't understand.
Is this legal what they've done? Well, they're goons with guns, and to them it's legal. I mean, personally, I don't think that they have the jurisdiction, you know. And Danbo has been bringing that up when he was arrested. He asked him by what authority. He said quo warranto. You know, by what authority do they have over a plant that comes from God? I mean, and when a law is unconstitutional, it is unconstitutional from when it was made. It's not unconstitutional from some kind of black judge Rome says it is. They can't show me where they have legislative jurisdiction over a plant that comes from God. I don't see it anywhere in the Constitution of the United States or the state of Oregon. And you know, we still live in a republic, and our rights come from God. They don't come from that piece of paper. Okay, that piece of paper limits the power of government. And if they're playing under some other rules, they need to tell the people. Power, but what they're doing is illegal and unconstitutional.
I agree with that, definitely. And it is an herb that shouldn't be allowed. But it's very like that because of people that have a lot of this.
Oh, really?
Today, we're here for Dan's arraignment. He's going to be arraigned on numerous cannabis charges, and he is being held on $565,000 bail. Today, they're actually going to hear a resisting arrest charge for his arrest this Saturday at the parade.
Could you describe that arrest?
Apparently, it seemed almost, pre-planned, where the police basically swarmed him in a large group and took him down and basically carted him off almost pig style, demanding that they had a warrant. And
did they show him the warrant before they tackled him?
no, apparently not.
Has anyone seen the warrant?
No one's seen the warrant. And we had contact yesterday morning. Dan still hadn't seen any paperwork or knew what the charges were. But we have been in touch by phone, and we know now that the charges are basically the old charges, a re-indictment on old charges that were never indicted. And they could have just came to our house and knocked on our door, sent us a letter or something peaceable, but they chose to instigate violence. They knocked on Dan and kind of threw him to the ground, and it caused his knee to dislocate. So he's in there.
Would that explain why they maybe thought he was resisting arrest, because he was?
Well, I think that's part of it. There is, of course, some immediate confusion about what happened at the beginning, because it is such a melee when something like that happens so instantly. So I can't give you the exact facts on that, but I do know that when I arrived at the scene just moments later, I could see that the leg was displaced, and then he was on the ground and unable to get up and comply with what they wanted him to do. They said at one point that they had their knees on his chest so hard that he felt like they were trying to kill him. Well, he's probably not that comfortable at this point, because that can be a rather severe injury when you have a dislocation like that. We're here today basically to show our support. A lot of patients in this town have been dependent on Dan's help for their medical marijuana, and there is no way that some people can grow their medical marijuana. It's a safe, equitable place, and people support and respect somebody that would put their life on the line for a cause like this. So people are gathering here today in support of this arraignment. Some of us will go up into the arraignment, and if they do bring him in, which they may not because they see our presence here, there won't be any actual contact with him, but it's just there to show support for the person that's being arraigned, and at that point he'll be asked to plead not guilty or guilty.
Change the rules so it's easier.
I've been in here today, nobody's made any move to come get me, so.
Well, I'll check on the computer.
If you could check, because they wouldn't tell me on the phone.
It won't necessarily reveal it if they could do a secret
Right, yeah. If you want a brief explanation of what she just told us in there, is that Lane County is the only county in the state of Oregon that still has what's called a secret indictment. And that is basically when you're originally arrested and you're arraigned, you plead guilty or not guilty, and at that point the district attorney takes it under his wing. He looks at your case, he takes it to a grand jury, and he tries to get an indictment, and at that time it is up to the district attorney whether or not he wants to notify you or your attorney of that indictment. And that's what they call a secret indictment, and that's what they've done here, and that's what they may be doing against me and several other people at this time. We don't know. And she said that about 40% of the district attorneys in Lane County will not inform attorneys or clients when they've been indicted in a secret indictment. So that's what you have here, where they can just pull you over as you're walking down the street, secret indictment, we got you now. And they do probably purposely go out of their way, not to get you at your house, They try to make a point of everything action that they can have against you. The previous bust back a year ago in June, and then again in just this year of February. Both those busts were never indicted. And usually they send you a letter in the mail saying your court date is such and you have been indicted on this crime, and they usually send you a letter and they send your attorney a letter. Well, since in Lane County apparently they still have this thing called a secret indictment, which apparently appears to be somewhat legal, and that's where they really don't have to notify you that you've been indicted. And for whatever reason they think you're going to flee, or it might be dangerous, or any excuse they can come up with to make it so that it's secret, and they don't want to send you a letter because they know that you won't show up.
So Dan's original bail was set at what?
It was originally set at $565,000. That's two separate cases. One was like $340,000, $250 or something.
The individual has the kind of ties to the community. What is going on now with him and his bakery and the Saturday market and other things, he's not a flea risk. He's not. I don't see.
He's not really a flea risk, and he stayed here through all those other arrests. At least as we left, the good news is that the custody referee approached us, inquired as to what was going on, and right off said, oh, that's ridiculous, I'll reduce that, no problem. Can you come up with $5,000? So she said they're going to reduce it to $50,000. That's $25,000 on each case. So that'd be $5,000. Visa, MasterCard, or cash.
I've heard Dan before say that his defense is going to be religious, and that this is his ministry to help people with medicinal cannabis.
Well, he's always had a strong conviction, and he's registered as a church, Popular Society of What I Am Assembly. And so he does feel as if his religious rights are infringed upon, as well as his spiritual and political and human rights. But he does stand pretty firm on his religious stand that, he has a God-given right to use this plant and to share it with others within his church.
So the next hearing?
So I think they set it for June 10th or something.
Thank you.
Oh, here we go. Oh, no.
Welcome back to Cannabis TV, and I'm here now with my co-host, Danbo Ernst, injured by the Eugene Police Saturday. Welcome back, Danbo.
Oh, God. I've sat here many times on Tuesday night, and I have to say that tonight I feel much different than any time before. I feel a little bit battered. Lane County deputies, 8 of them, almost killed me in a segregated cell. I've never been so horrified or threatened for my life. I was gasping for air. My thumb, I don't know if you can get a close up here of the thumbs, but the one sheriff was pulling my thumb really super hard. I guess I should start off on how these guys trampled my rights. Here was our day. We've been talking about Liberation Day for quite a few weeks. I had a boatload of information to pass out on how hemp is legal in Oregon and how the judiciary here is in a very fragile state and a very precarious state. And my rights were denied to help assemble the people and to have freedom of speech. So these warrants, the indictments from the grand jury, here's the other problem is I've been arrested on the same charges both times. 1 minute. Oh, we have 1 minute tonight. So the bottom line is you need to help. If you can come out and help, please call 541-485-6717. And I hope we have more time to do more of the next show because there's a major issue here. I hope people come out to the city council meeting on Monday. And
the 13th, what time?
The 13th of May at the Eugene City Council meeting. We will be there. It's probably 7, 8
Is
at
it
night.
7 o'clock, Dan?
7 o'clock, Eugene City Council this coming Monday. Be there, help us, and learn more about the great things about hemp. Join us here at Cannabis TV if you want. Sheldon High School every Monday evening at 7 p.m. Come and be in our audience and learn about hemp. Tell the children the truth.
Your government lies.
Hard to believe they would kill someone over a plant.
Yeah. A plant, imagine that.